Hey, what's up everybody? This is Osterberg501 and today I want to go over my opinion and have a discussion about mounts in New World. Now just for clarification, there's currently no mount system in New World, and a system like that has not been officially announced to even be in production. But it does seem like the developers are pretty keen on adding a mount system at some point in New World's life. And looking at some different interviews that the developers of New World have done, it does seem like they want to wait to expand the land mass of New World a little bit before adding mounts into it. And it also sounds like they want to make a more advanced system of mounts than you just have a mount and it just moves faster. And I would be thinking something more akin to like BDO, where you have better and better mounts that have different abilities to use and something like that, than something like WoW, where it's just different looking mounts that all have basically the same speed and do the same exact thing. And this has been a pretty big topic of discussion in the community of New World, because generally I think most people would want mounts at some point, but there have been some people saying that they don't need it yet in New World and that it can negatively affect open world PvP. So I just want to talk about my general opinion with mounts as a concept for New World. Now personally, I don't think New World needs mounts right now, but I think once they add a few more zones, mounts will be something that is going to be more and more needed to be added to the game, because even one additional zone to New World increases the land mass by a pretty big amount. But currently right now, I don't think it's big enough to warrant the need of them. I think that a movement increasing system for right now would be much better. And some other people have mentioned this before, but I think having just a system where if you walk on roads, you're a bit faster, and maybe the longer you walk on roads, the faster you get, maybe like a stacking movement speed buff. So that would allow you to get place to place if you're just trying to get to a different place quicker, but also not heavily affect the rest of the world outside of just walking on those roads. And they could even add the possibility of settlements upgrading their roads to give better speed boosts in that settlements area or that zone. And I think that would be a much easier and simpler system for right now to make traveling just place to place a bit easier and a bit less tedious. And like I said, one of the biggest topics when talking about mounts is it affecting open world PvP. And in general, I think you're probably not going to have a mount system that's not in some way going to interact with the PvP system. If you have something more like WoW, where it's just an item in your bag that you say have a certain amount of time, summon it, then get on it, and maybe if you take damage or something like that, you'll get knocked off of it and you have to be out of combat to summon it. Or if it's going to be something more like BDO, where your mount is an actual physical object on the map where you have to take it somewhere, you have to get off it, and if you want to ride it again, you have to go back to where your mount is located and get back on it. So there's a lot of variation depending on how they would end up implementing the system, but I think overall it's not going to be a massive hindrance to PvP if they just implement a few safeguards against it. So if you did something like WoW, to where it's an item in your inventory and it takes a few seconds to summon it and you can't take damage while summoning it, I don't really think they have a in or out of combat as much as they do like in something like World of Warcraft. But another thing that I could possibly do to help it hinder open world PvP less is make it to when you get on a mount, it has to speed up a little bit to get to full mount speed. So say you get on it and maybe it's only going your walking speed, and then that builds up pretty quickly to the full mount speed. So it gives people in PvP who are trying to chase someone down a little bit more of an opportunity to hit that person and get them off their mounts. You can also make it be a 1 to 3 second summon time, and then past that it is going to affect PvP, but I don't think it's really going to be that big of a hindrance even in a system like that. And if they went with a system more like BDO, where your horse or your mount is an actual thing in the world, it would be much more easy to balance it for PvP, because if you don't know, essentially what happens at BDO is your mount can actually be attacked and killed, and then you have to go revive it at a stable master, and you have to actually do the animation of getting on your horse. If you get stunned, you get knocked off your horse, and then it can also die. So a system more like that hinders PvP a lot less, because if someone gets any damage on you, any CC or anything, they've pretty much countered that mount already, and they've also done done damage to your mount. So even if you can get away, they could possibly do some damage to your horse, which you'd have to spend resources to heal back up. So it really all depends on how they end up implementing a mount system. In my personal opinion, if New World has any longevity, I would fully expect there to be a mount system added probably within the first year of the game's life. Because first off, it's going to be a highly requested system, and it's going to be more and more requested as the game world gets bigger and bigger. It is another system that a lot of MMO players like. Something like BDO, a lot of people love that system because it's essentially another profession. You have all these different mounts you can get, you can upgrade them, you can get different skills. And then in something like World of Warcraft, which is a completely different mount system, you have people spending a ridiculous amount of time going and farming and collecting all the different mounts you can get in the game to get all the different looking mounts, all the flying mounts, all the ground mounts, all the rare mounts from raid bosses or whatever other activity in the game gives them. So whichever way they go about implementing it, people are going to want a mount system, and it's going to add quite a bit of additional content to the game. And then past that, you have to look at how can Amazon make money off a mount system, and it's pretty clear that they would be able to make a ridiculous amount of money from mounts, because there's a few ways in which they implement mounts that they can end up selling things for mounts or mounts themselves. They'll either sell certain items for mounts, say if they end up having like saddles and horseshoes and things like that, they'll be able to sell those on the marketplace, sell different cosmetics of those items so it looks different on the horse or whatever mount it is. If it's a system where you'll be able to actually skin your mounts to look like something different, they'll be able to sell those skins really easily on the marketplace. Or if it's a system where it's more like WoW, where it's just a different mount that kind of do the same things, you'll very easily be able to sell that as well, because you'll just be able to sell different looking mounts on their marketplace as well. And all of those options are going to make them a ton of money, pretty much guaranteed. There'll probably be some of those popular items in their shop. Then they can also tie in the dyeing system with the mounts. There's a possibility of you just being able to dye the whole mount or dye different parts of the mounts. If they end up selling something like saddles or horseshoes or different items for your mounts, you'll be able to dye those. So whichever way they end up implementing these mounts, they'll also have a pretty big incentive to do it, because they'll be able to sell tons of microtransactions for mounts. Now, in my personal opinion, the mount system I would like to see would probably be something in the middle between like BDO and WoW. I would want it to be something a little bit less hardcore than something like BDO, where you have to constantly remember where your mount is. Mounts aren't that great unless you get the more higher tier ones. They get really ridiculous once you get the highest tier ones in BDO. They have a bunch of different abilities that are honestly really hard to use unless you keep on specific things. Like in BDO, if you've never seen some of the quicker mounts, they're essentially just constantly spamming like these quick acceleration abilities with drift abilities to make them go ridiculously fast. So I'd wanted something a bit more basic than that, but a bit more involved than something like World of Warcraft. So possibly having craftable items tied to the mount so you can put different saddles on them, different horseshoes that give them maybe more basic abilities, maybe make them faster, maybe give them like a jump ability or bigger jump abilities or something like that. Something that's a bit more basic than BDO. Like I said, more involved than World of Warcraft, and you could tie it into a pre-existing profession to craft these things, or a brand new profession that's say like horse training. You could then craft all these different horse items and tie it in that way. So it's pretty much all I want to go over for my opinions for a mount system in New World. Like I said, if the game has longevity, it's pretty much a guaranteed chance that mounts will be added in at some point, and I'm excited to see how they go about making a mounting system. So subscribe if you want to see more New World or other MMO videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about a possible mounting system in New World, and thanks for watching.